Welcome to the Silica Exposure Training for the cut stone industry. This training covers the identification, evaluation, and control of silica exposures in cut stone and stone fabrication industries. The training was developed by Georgia Tech's Safety, Health, and Environmental Services Group with funding from the U.S. Department of Labor's Susan Harwood Training Grant Program. This is Lesson 3, Hazards of Exposure to Respirable Crystalline Silica in Engineered Stone. In this lesson, we will be talking about how exposure to respirable crystalline silica can cause adverse health effects. There are actually two different types of silica, amorphous silica and crystalline silica. For the purpose of this training, when we refer to silica, we mean crystalline silica. Crystalline silica, if examined under a microscope, has a lattice-like structure which gives it a prismatic effect and distinguishes it as a hard mineral, where amorphous silica, an example is glass, doesn't have this symmetrical structure. Crystalline silica has three main forms: quartz, tridymite, and cristobalite. For work with engineered stone, we are going to focus on quartz crystalline silica. Crystalline silica is a common mineral. It can be found everywhere. It is in sand and part of the Earth's crust. However, when silica is crushed down to a very small size, which is something that happens when you cut, grind, or polish engineered stone countertops, the silica is able to enter into the deepest parts of the lung. The silica dust particles produced are what we call respirable and are approximately 100 times smaller than ordinary sand. To give you a perspective, let's take a look at this training video Ocean made back in 1938 that demonstrates just how small crystalline silica particles are.
This is the story of silicosis, a disease of the lungs caused by breathing fine particles of dust containing silica. Granite dust. Its small particles consist mainly of free silica. The smaller the particles, the greater the danger to human lungs. Here is a fine mesh screen with over 100,000 openings to the square inch. Notice how readily the silica dust passes through. Yet this screen is so fine that it holds water. Every drop poured into the sieve is poured back into the glass.
If the dust particles are small enough, they can make it all the way to the alveoli of the lungs. There are 300 million alveoli in the lung, and this is the site of gas exchange. There are immune defense cells called macrophages that patrol the surface of the alveoli looking for foreign invaders, such as dust, virus, or bacteria. And when they encounter a foreign particle, they engulf it or eat it. In the case of silica dust, they try to dissolve it, but the mineral does not dissolve. It persists, aka biopersistence. And when the macrophage dies, it creates scar tissue. Chronic exposure to silica leads to chronic inflammation and perpetuation of the cycle and develops fibrotic nodules and scarring around the trapped silica particles. The fibrotic condition of the lung is called silicosis. If the nodules grow too large, breathing becomes difficult and death may occur. Silicosis development is dependent on the size of the silica particles, the exposure concentration, and the duration of exposure. There are actually three main health effects associated with exposure to silica: lung system effects, kidney or renal system effects, and immune system effects. Let's go over each of these main health effects. The first health effect associated with exposure to silica is lung disease, and the main lung disease is called silicosis. What scientists are observing with workers in the cut stone industry is the exposure to silica dust from the fabrication of engineered stone is actually resulting in rapidly developing or accelerated cases of silicosis. The symptoms of accelerated silicosis include severe shortness of breath, weakness, cough, weight loss, fever, fatigue, coughing up blood, and chest pain. Silicosis is not a reversible condition, and there is no specific treatment for the disease, other than the administration of drugs to alleviate inflammation and maintain open airways, or administration of oxygen therapy in severe cases. The diagnosis of silicosis is based on a history of exposure to respirable crystalline silica, chest X-ray, and the exclusion of other conditions that appear similar. Let's hear from Ever on how silicosis feels for him.
No sé cómo es estar uno así tanto tiempo enfermo y es doloroso también porque como siempre me dicen los doctores que los pulmones que no duelen, que no sé qué, pero yo sí siento dolor y siento dolor en todo mi cuerpo. Tengo mis dedos que siempre me los tengo que andar haciendo pues, así porque me duelen. Tengo mis piernas, todo. Entonces es difícil para mí todo eso. Sí.
Having exposure to silica increases the risk of other problems, such as tuberculosis, lung cancer, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. There are some studies showing that the risk of lung cancer increases if silica-exposed worker is also a smoker. If the lungs are overwhelmed with silica particles, the macrophages that normally fight off disease may not be able to handle exposure to tuberculosis bacteria. As a result, exposure to silica increases the risk of contracting tuberculosis. And if a person has latent tuberculosis and they are exposed to silica, the likelihood of that infection becoming active increases. Silica is slightly soluble in blood, which is how it can end up in the kidneys. For this reason, workers exposed to silica may be twice as likely to suffer kidney or renal disease. Finally, workers who become sick with silicosis can also develop immune system disorders such as scleroderma, rheumatoid arthritis, or lupus. Scleroderma is associated with skin discoloration and ulceration, joint pain, swelling and discomfort in the extremities, breathing problems, and digestive problems. Rheumatoid arthritis is associated with joint pain and tenderness, fatigue, fever, and weight loss. And lupus, a chronic disease of connective tissue, has a wide range of symptoms, including skin rash, fever, fatigue, joint pain, anemia, and iron deficiency. Thank you for watching Lesson 3 of the Silica Exposure Training for the Cut-Stone Industry, a training on the identification, evaluation, and control of silica in the cut stone and stone fabrication industry. This material was produced under grant number SH37200 SH1 from the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, U.S. Department of Labor. It does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the U.S. Department of Labor, nor does the mention of trade names, commercial products, or organizations imply endorsement by the U.S. government.